phenomenal job this year. You know what I mean? Like Ben Johnson also, like if he had a name like Jim Bob Cooter, who's a former offensive coordinator of the Lions, like then like we all love him. But Ben Johnson's so boring; it's such a boring name.
Yeah, he should be a head coaching candidate.
Right?
I think,
yeah, Jim Bob Johnson. Like now we're talking about the offensive coordinator, but that was who Jared was talking about. Jared Goff, the sound you just heard. He is playing really well. He's playing well in the NFL, and he's playing well for the Detroit Lions and fantasy managers as well, especially when he's at home as he is this week. When he's played under the dome in Detroit, he's averaging 20.5 fantasy points per game. He's got multiple touchdown passes in 6 of his 7 home games this year, and we love this matchup with the Minnesota Vikings, a theme that we've talked about throughout this show. They've allowed 300 passing yards in 4 straight games, the Vikings have. Like, they give it up.
Yep. When I was talking to Cris before, actually, in between moments when he was trying to steal your Peacock puppet idea. But while he wasn't doing that, he was telling me how the reason that Mac Jones was so good against the Vikings, then wasn't good against the Bills, is that like the Vikings, they just play cover 4 or cover 2. It's very easy to solve what they're doing. You know who also likes uncomplicated defenses? Jared Goff. So I think that he's going to play really well in a game where the total is 51.5. So I think Goff will light them up. But on the other side,
by the way,
Kirk Cousins.
You want an interesting fact about Jared Goff?
Sure.
So his fiance is a woman named Kristen Harper, who is a Sports Illustrated swimsuit model, and they met. This is a story that she's doing some press, and so they met on a dating app.
Yeah. Okay.
So I'm just like, if just for people out there that are like, I'm lonely, I should go on a dating app, that kind of stuff. Who's on there? Sports Illustrated swimsuit models on dating apps.
Yeah, unbelievable.
Yeah.
Jared Goff still looking ridiculously like Ryan Gosling.
And apparently NFL quarterbacks.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. I don't really get that. It's not like Jared Goff. I don't know. I'm going to continue that thought.
No, go ahead.
Don't you think he looks ridiculously like Ryan Gosling? Isn't it eerie? They look exactly the same.
Look, he's a good-looking guy.
The guy from Drive is playing quarterback for the Lions.
Jared Goff is a good-looking guy. He's an NFL starting quarterback. He's insanely rich.
Yeah.
I mean, why not?
Yeah, I don't think he's on the same app that I would download if I was married with 3 kids.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Yeah, right. You're just like lonelytvhost.com, something like that.
Yeah. Kirk Cousins.
Kirk Cousins. Let's talk about Kirk Cousins. Not married to a swimsuit Sports Illustrated model, as far as I know. And also don't know where Kirk Cousins met his wife.
No.
Where did you meet your wife?
At my university in Australia.
Okay.
At like an Australian Football League grand final party.
Okay.
You know Australian football? You ever watch Australian football?
Sure, of course.
It's a really good sport.
Yeah, sure. Of course,
yeah.
Sure it is.
It's like soccer, isn't it?
It's like rugby, but different.
Yes, exactly. That's the way to describe it. Anyway, where did you meet your wife? At a bar, right?
Mail order bride. Mail order bride. I just on the internet.
Right.
It's a long story. The very short version of it is that and this is a great idea, by the way, for anyone, especially with so I threw a Valentine's Day party, which I've done for a number of years, and I threw when I moved to Connecticut, I threw a Valentine's Day party, and the rule of the Valentine's Day party is whether you were in a relationship or not, to get into the party, you had to bring your most eligible single friend.
Yes.
Of the opposite sex.
Yes.
So guys brought girls brought guys, that kind of thing, and so. She was the friend of a friend.
Genius, Barry.
And so,
Genius.
So I met her at my Valentine's Day party, she became my Valentine. 15 years later.
Well played.
So,
and Kirk Cousins is your Valentine today.
Kirk Cousins is my Valentine in Week 14. He certainly makes the love list. Again, we want as much of this game as we can get. It's a recurring theme here. Kirk Cousins playing the Detroit Lions. Quarterbacks that have attempted at least 35 passes against the Lions this year, averaging 23.9 fantasy points per game. Cousins has attempted at least 35 passes in 10 of the past 12 games. We expect this to be a high-scoring game, especially because the Lions allow the most fantasy points to opposing quarterbacks in the NFL. Yeah, Kirk Cousins, top 10 play this week.
Yep, I like it. All right, let's get to some others receiving votes, including Tyler Huntley, who's almost certainly going to be filling in for Lamar Jackson.
The rushing keeps his floor high. Look, he's quarterback 14 in what we expect to be a low-scoring game against the Steelers. But, in the 6 games in which he's played at least 80% of the snaps over the last 6 games, he's averaging 15.9 fantasy points per game. He's averaging 54 rushing yards. He had at least 30 pass attempts in these games. So, I think the running will keep his floor high. Certainly when TJ Watt is bearing down on you, you take off and run. How about Ryan Tannehill? Winning one for John Robinson, maybe. Anyway, Ryan Tannehill's a rich man, and John Robinson, the man who gave him that contract, I believe. Last 4 quarterbacks to face the Jags have all scored at least 18 fantasy points. Last 4 weeks, Jaguars also allowing touchdown passes at the second highest rate. So I like Ryan Tannehill as a mid-tier QB2 this week. And the needs a nickname Mike White of your fighting New York Jets has over 300 passing yards in both of his starts. Last 4 weeks, Buffalo, teams that face the Bills, have 41 pass attempts per game. That's second most in the NFL. We expect them to be able to, they expect them to have to throw against the Bills. Again, the Bills are big favorites here. I think, what did you say, it's 8.5?
I think it's ticked up to 9.5 now.
9.5, okay.
Which seems a bit big and disrespectful to my New York Jets. I'm telling you, Jets cover. I don't know if they win, but I think they absolutely cover the 9.5. Worth noting that over the last 4 weeks, the Bills are 28th against the pass. Yep, and Von Miller is done.
Von Miller is done, so should be a cleaner pocket, certainly, for Mike White.
Yep. Okay, let's go to hate. Let's start with Deshaun Watson, who did not look like an NFL quarterback against the Texans.
When people were booing Deshaun Watson last week, do you think they were booing him
as a man or as a guy who's short-arming passes?
Exactly, that's the thing. Like, do you think they were booing like Deshaun Watson because of all the allegations against him?
I think it was just a cocktail of everything.
Right.
Yeah, there was no one cheering.
Why
do
we have to pick one?
Yeah.
Right. Or is it just because he set football back 30 years?
Yeah.
Like, it
was very strange.
Either way. Whatever the reason for booing him, I think if you start him on your fantasy team this week, you will once again boo him against the Cincinnati Bengals. They allow touchdown passes at the 4th lowest rate. They've had one game this year. The Cincinnati Bengals have one game this entire season where they've allowed multiple touchdown passes. And then you think about the Browns last week, and he looked awful. Like, how could you, in a week in which you most likely need to win to get into the playoffs? Or at least, to get a better seed, whatever. It's a crucial week for so many fantasy managers. How on earth could you trust that to what you saw last week?
Yeah, they're never going to do it, but honestly, they should go back to Jacoby Brissett for the rest of the or maybe not the rest of the season, but I think Jacoby Brissett, I would project him to play at a higher level the rest of the season than Deshaun Watson, based on what Watson showed last week.
If you were still setting lines for a living, which is what you used to do, and Jacoby Brissett were starting, you would make the Browns, you would move the line more in Browns' favor if he was under center versus Watson.
No. What I would do this week is I would still treat Watson as better just for this week. Because I think one bad week is not going to have me write off Deshaun Watson. But if Watson's bad again, then the week after, when Cleveland, and they have a relatively easy schedule.
But are you, when you're doing that, or when you did that, are you setting lines based on candidly what you think or what you think the public thinks?
No, purely what I think and what we think as a trading team, we think the public will bet on doesn't influence lines. For instance, everyone's going to bet on the Vikings against Detroit. No one's going to bet on Detroit minus 2.5. Everyone's going to bet on the Vikings, but we don't skew the line because we know that people are going to bet. We just set it where the line should be on what we think, and then you just live with the consequences.
Okay, interesting. Yeah, interesting because you could you're well, everyone's going to think Watson's better. You know what I mean? Everyone assumes Minnesota's going to win, so we're going to make this Minnesota minus 2.5, even though our numbers say we think the Lions are.
Exactly. So you just put the number where it should be.
And
with Deshaun, there is going to be huge variance based on how he plays against the Bengals. Because he could just look like Deshaun Watson from Houston when he played for Houston, and not Deshaun Watson in Houston last week. So a lot to see there. But Tom Brady, I think we kind of know what Brady is this season. He's going to be a guy who throws a ton, doesn't get many yards per attempt, but is still vaguely fantasy useful just because of the volume, but against San Francisco, not the matchup you want.
That's the key. His drive last week to win the game, really impressive. He's still Tom Brady, but on the road at San Francisco, which is the number 1 defense in yards per game this season, they allow touchdown passes at the 3rd lowest rate. There's only been 3 quarterbacks this entire year that have scored more than 14 points against the Niners, and 2 of them had a rushing touchdown. Which, listen, there's no one better at the quarterback sneak than Tom Brady in NFL history, so if they get on the 1-yard line, could they do that? But it feels like this year, more often than not, they've been going to Fournette in that scenario, so he's my QB 16 in a week in which you have 6 teams on a bye. Not a lot of big-name quarterbacks other than Justin Fields. Big name meaning, fantasy relevant. because Aaron Rodgers is on a bye. He's a big name, obviously, but yeah.
Yep.
Not so much.
Tom Brady, 3.5-point underdog to Brock Purdy in 2022. It's unbelievable.
In this economy.
All right. we're going to go to break in this economy and come back with some Cam Akers chat.
I bet the Bucs there.
Yeah.
I think
I like the Bucs.
I'm not giving points to Brock Purdy against Tom Brady.
Still Tom Brady.
I'm not starting Brady on my fantasy team either. Hey, it's Matthew Berry from NBC Sports and Rotoworld.com. Just want to thank you so much for watching what you just watched, or at least being too lazy to click out of it after the autoplay just kept it going. So either way, thank you so much for just letting it scroll by your screen. And now I'd like to ask you respectfully, okay, please subscribe to the NFL on NBC YouTube channel for the latest NFL news, fantasy headlines from Rotoworld, and betting analysis from NBC Sports Edge.